From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Millicent Walker.
Tonight, health professionals raise concerns over neglect of COVID-19 protocols by the citizens, say third wave of the pandemic has begun in the country. Debate rages over the impending National Assembly vote on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Governors, civil society groups demand transparent electoral process. Emir of Kajuru Al-Hassan Adamu regains freedom after spending a night with his kidnappers in Kaduna State. 13 members of his family still in captivity. And authorities in Haiti arrest man said to be the mastermind of the attack that killed the country's president, Jovenel Moise. Plus, business, sports, news from Abuja, and later, international news from our studio in London.
On business news tonight, Bureau of Public Enterprises successfully creates 3 companies from the Nigerian Postal Services following its unbundling.
On sports news tonight, Italian President Sergio Mattarella hosts newly crowned European champions Italy in a victory ceremony at the Presidential Palace.
And from Abuja, Federal High Court threatens to issue a warrant of arrest on former Aviation Minister Senator Stella Odua for failure to appear before it for alleged 10 billion naira fraud.
Is Nigeria really ready for the third wave of COVID-19 pandemic? If not, the question then is, are we prepared as a country for a possible resurgence of the Delta variant, which is already being touted to be a more severe and deadly strain of the coronavirus? Although Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State said in a statement yesterday that the third wave of the virus looms, he did not state specifically whether or not the state is already experiencing this. The discovery of the Delta variant in the country, as confirmed by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, is a clear indication that there may be the need for action now before it gets late. Our correspondent Mary Alale Yusuf looks at the level of preparedness and what experts believe should be done at this time.
Towards the end of the first quarter of 2021, the numbers of daily COVID-19 cases were falling, and the dreaded second wave was almost over, so it seemed. But at the beginning of July, cases started climbing again, especially in Lagos. The governor of the state, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who said the positivity rate had gone up from 1.1% at the end of June to 6.6% as at July the 8th, gives increased isolation center occupancy as further proof. This was corroborated by the head of the isolation center at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital.
Once you see that the numbers are going up and it's consistently so, you have to, have a high index and say, okay, this is what's happening. Among those people testing, how many of them are turning back positive? It's a very huge marker at hospitals and at health facilities also. When you see the number of people who are reporting with these symptoms increasing, and that is why the reporting system is fashioned in such a way that at facilities, there are, of course, we know there are what's called disease surveillance and notification of DSNOs.
In the early days of COVID-19 in 2020, contact tracing helped keep the infection contained. The story is different now, even though Delta, a variant of concern, is now on the loose. The Delta variant is reputed to be at least 50% more transmissible than the others.
Well, the truth of the matter is we stopped contact tracing as soon as we had transited into community transmission, which means that the virus was everywhere, is now everywhere. There's no unidirectionality about it. It's not from one person to another. It's one person can affect 1.6 people, or better still, 10 people can infect 16 others. Oh, this Delta variant has been found to be 50% more transmissible.
Ironically, restrictions on the populace are not being increased. The simple instructions remain the same.
The issue is back to hands, face, space. Wash your hands, wear a mask, maintain physical distance.
Now the message is, there's a new virus in town. This one is even more easily transmissible. So simply step up doing what you were doing before. Only this time, do it more effectively.
Religious houses are also allowed a maximum of 50% capacity at any time. Unfortunately, according to the Lagos State government, 18% of travelers into the Muritala Mohammed Airport in Lagos provided wrong contact details, making it impossible to monitor them. The borders remain cautiously open in an attempt to balance life and livelihoods. Passengers from India, South Africa, Brazil and Turkey are required to observe a mandatory isolation period on arrival.
There are also other burning issues of national concern still generating controversy, and this is apart from security. The recent nomination of Mrs. Loretta Noche as an INEC commissioner and the reluctance of the government to provide for the electronic transmission of election results are of paramount interest, and the River State Governor, Nyesom Wike, is lending his voice to the issues. Governor Wike is alleging that the All Progressives Congress is planning to rig the 2023 general elections as he gives account of his stewardship as governor of River State in the last 6 years.
The nomination and desperation of the Buhari and the All Progressives Congress APC controlled National Assembly to force an invalid Ms. Loretta Onoche and Nigerians as INEC National Commissioner is a bad omen for our democracy. By any standards, the most fundamental consideration against the appointment of an electoral umpire in a democracy is the likelihood of bias, which in this case is heavily weighted against Ms. Onoche as a notorious and repulsively partisan diehard in the rule of APC. Despite the flood of protests against her nomination and the general lack of trust in our capacity to remain impartial, it seems the APC-led Senate is determined to confine her appointment as part of the grand design to rig the 2023 general election well ahead of time, knowing Nigerians would overwhelmingly reject them in a free, fair, and transparent contest managed by a strong and independent election management committee. As a governor and concerned Nigerian who love this country so much and wants our democracy to survive, I wish to appeal to Mr. President to, for the sake of the legacy, withdraw Ms. Onoche's nomination to avoid creating more credibility problems for his INEC and restore confidence in our electoral system. Where Mr. President lacks the courage to so do, then the National Assembly, which has the responsibility to defend our democracy, must endeavor to wake up on the right side of history by rejecting her nomination. President Buhari readily attributes his victory in both the 2015 and 2019 push to the introduction of the novel card reader device by President Goodluck Jonathan's administration. Yet, he has been overtly reluctant on the need to midwife the birth of a new, transparent, efficient, and trustworthy electoral system for the country. Let me therefore warn that we do not need a soothsayer to tell us that to allow the old ways of doing things and much vilified status quo to continue to prevail in the electoral system as recommended by the Senate version of the bill will be a complete disservice to the nation and a recipe for disaster for our country. Again, I hope Mr. President still cares about his legacy and will therefore prevail on the APC-controlled National Assembly to give the nation an electoral act with positive provisions on electronic voting and simultaneous transmission of results from the youth level to prevent rigging and guarantee trust, credibility, and confidence in our elections.
And for the River State Governor's counterpart in Sokoto State, the National Assembly needs to bequeath to Nigeria an electoral act that will contribute to free, fair and credible elections, irrespective of party platforms. Governor Aminu Tambuwal says what guarantees the re-election of a member of the National Assembly or indeed any other contestant should be his performance and appeal, not the dictates of any godfather, either as governor, president or party leader or stakeholder.
What guarantees the election of a member of the National Assembly or indeed any other contestant should be his performance and appeal, not the dictates of any godfather, either as governor, president or party leader or stakeholder. It is a credible, free and fair election that will ensure that the voters decide any electoral contest. The Edo and Ondo state elections, where electronic transmission of votes cast from the unit level ensured that the voters' wishes were respected, are good examples. PDP won in Edo and APC won in Ondo as a result. Some have argued that internet penetration in all parts of Nigeria is not assured. This is exactly why the bill should give INEC the prerogative of introducing electronic transmission of votes in any election. In any case, INEC has demonstrated and assured that it has the technology to transmit votes electronically even without the internet service.
In the meantime, a coalition of civil society organizations in Abuja is asking members of the House of Representatives and the Senate to adopt electronic voting during the clause-by-clause consideration of electoral amendment bill instead of the regular voice vote by the lawmakers. The group insists that electronic voting by the lawmakers will make the process more transparent and enable Nigerians to know all who vote for or against electronic voting and transmission of results by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC.
In the process that's going to start this week, we want the National Assembly to ensure that the way that they pass the clause-by-clause recommendations is by electronic voting. So we want a situation where we can identify easily the House of Representative members or the senators who are voting for which clause. We want to know which honorable member or which senator is representing the interest of the people. Because where the interest of the people lie in this matter is that we want electronic transmission of vote results. We want electronic voting, which INEC has shown that it has capacity to deliver on in the next general elections. In fact, in the next Anambra elections that's coming up. And this is what we're saying. So let us not have the highs-have-it process in this particular amendment for the bill or repeal of the bill. Let the National Assembly show Nigerians through the infrastructure that currently exists in the National Assembly and the Senate that this is how representatives are voting on this particular issue. Nigerians want electronic transmission of vote results. Nigerians want a situation whereby we can have a free, fair, credible electoral process. Without a credible process, what we will continue to have in our country is agitations and chaos in the manner that we have it today, even worse than the manner that we have it today.
And to another matter, before the National Assembly, newspapers in Nigeria have commenced a campaign against media regulations bills being deliberated upon by lawmakers. Several of the publications issued an advertorial on their front pages today, boldly headlined "Information Blackout" and sponsored by the Nigeria Union of Journalists, the Nigeria Guild of Editors and the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria. They claim that the NPC and NBC Media Act amendment amendment bills now before the National Assembly are aimed at restricting the right of citizens to information. According to the advertorial, the bills are not targeted at the media, but also the society's right to know and the right to be heard. However, the sponsor of the NPC Act Amendment Bill, Mr. Olusegun Odebumi, chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Information, National Orientation, Ethics and Values, has said that the amendment is not intended to gag the media, but civil society organizations and rights groups have condemned it as being anti-media. In part two, after the break, the president receives the governors of Zamfara and Cross River following their recent defection from the PDP to the APC. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Health professionals raise concern over neglect of COVID-19 protocols by citizens. A third wave of the pandemic has begun in the country. Debate rages over the impending National Assembly vote on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Governors, civil society groups demand transparent electoral process. Emir of Kajuru Al-Hassan Adamu regains freedom after spending a night with his kidnappers in Kaduna State. 13 members of his family still in captivity. And authorities in Haiti arrest man said to be the mastermind of the attack that killed the country's president, Jovenel Moïse. To security matters, where the Emir of Kajuru Alhaji Al-Hassan Adamu has been freed after spending a night in bandits' captivity in Kaduna State. But the other 13 members of his family are still with the kidnappers, who earlier demanded 200 million naira as ransom. It is not confirmed if any ransom was paid before the release of the 85-year-old traditional ruler. The bandits, said to have numbered over 200, stormed the emirate yesterday morning, shooting sporadically before proceeding to the Emir's palace and abducted him alongside 13 members of his family. Meanwhile, abductors of the Provost College of Agriculture and Animal Science, Bakura Zamfara State, Habibu Mainasara, have demanded 5 million naira as ransom before they can release him. The elder brother of the Provost, Nasiru Mainasara, told Channels Television that the bandits have been in contact with the family and they have been negotiating for reduction in the amount. He, however, said some prominent members of the community have told the family to stop the negotiation and assured them of his safe rescue. The State Police Command, however, denied knowledge of the negotiation between the family and the abductors. Let's turn our attention to politics. The president has saluted the courage of the governors of Zamfara and Cross River State, who recently decamped from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress. President Muhammadu Buhari, who received the decampees alongside the chairman of the Caretaker Committee of the party and Governor of Yobe State, Mai Mala Buni, says their constituencies will be proud. The president also met separately with the Borno State Governor, Babagana Zulum, who is soliciting support for the repatriation of 200,000 refugees from neighboring countries. Our correspondent, Gloria Muzuke, reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari receives some governors from the ruling All Progressives Congress who have come to officially present their newly decamped colleagues. An elated president is confident this is an important move.
We respect our people, no matter how low. This is why we emphasize free, fair elections. I thank you very much. I welcome you. I assure you that your people will respect you more for having the courage to come to the party at your own time.
Chairman of the Caretaker Committee of the party and Governor Mai Malabuni of Yobe State speaks on the party congresses.
It was shifted a week because of the Salah, which coincided with the earlier 24th. That was supposed to start on 24th, which will now start on the 31st of this month.
Separately, Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State met with the president to solicit support over repatriation of 200,000 refugees.
Now that we have started witnessing gradual return of peace to Borno State, these people of Borno State that are taking refuge in our neighboring countries are willing to return home. And therefore, Borno State government has fixed a date of 27th of November 2021 for the commencement of the repatriation process, especially to local government areas.
He further reacts to reports that earlier emerged of ISWAP's appointment of a governor under a new leadership within Borno State.
We are yet to validate the authenticity of this report that ISWAP has appointed a governor in Borno State. So as a governor of the state, I think it's not right for me to speak on something that I don't have full knowledge of it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm the governor of Borno State.
Earlier, the Gombe State Governor Mohammed Yahaya equally met with the President's Chief of Staff, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, and intimated the media of ongoing plans to build high-capacity schools that can accommodate larger number of students close to security formations to mitigate the risk of kidnappings within the state. From the Presidential Villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And from the State House, we are back in River State, marking the end of a 6-week-long event lined up to commission projects and flag off in commemoration of his 6th year in office. At a well-attended event in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, Governor Nyesom Wike scored his administration high in all sectors. He says he feels proud of his achievements despite the economic downturn caused by the coronavirus pandemic.
Filled to capacity with government officials, traditional rulers, party chieftains and groups is the Obiwali Conference Center, venue for the presentation of account of stewardship by Governor Nyesom Wike of River State. The event rounds off 6 weeks of projects commissioning and flag-offs across the state to mark the governor's 6th year in office.
What is happening in River State today can best be described as infrastructural revolution. It is a vivid reflection of the new Rivers vision.
The governor, who some refer to as Mr. Project, highlights his scorecard in road infrastructure, education, health, sports, security, amongst others.
Before you, or shortly to be distributed to you, is a compendium of 536 pages, which captures the fundamental achievements of our administration in the last 6 years in road infrastructure, rural development, economic progress, education, healthcare, housing, administration of justice, security, agriculture, social welfare, sports, as well as culture and tourism. Going through this compendium, you will see with facts and evidence the claims and assertions on what we have delivered in practical terms to advance the progress of our state and well-being of our people in the last 6 years.
Besides presenting his scorecard, Governor Wike addresses some salient national issues bordering on the management of the economy and maintaining the integrity of the nation's electoral system.
As a governor and concerned Nigerian who love this country so much and wants our democracy to survive, I wish to appeal to Mr. President to, for the sake of his legacy, withdraw Mr. Onoche's nomination to avoid creating more credibility problems for his INEC and restore confidence in our electoral system.
The highlight of the event is the unveiling of the 536 compendium tagged River State, 6 years of audacious transformation by the former governor of River State, Dr. Peter Odili. Despite these achievements, Governor Wike says his administration will do more to make River State a destination of choice.
When the news at 10 returns, billionaire businesswoman and philanthropist Folorunsho Alakija launches 5 books to commemorate her 70th birthday. Plus, Bureau of Public Enterprises successfully creates 3 companies from the Nigeria Postal Services following its unbundling. That's on Business News. Do join us again. We'll now take you to our Abuja studios where Gloria Mozuke has some more stories. Good to see you, Gloria.
Hello, Millicent. Good to see you. The Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is encouraging Nigeria's contingent to the Tokyo Olympics of the need to stand out tall during the Games. He reminds them that they are standing on the shoulders of past Olympians and must conduct themselves in a way that will bring pride to the country. He made the comments at the unveiling of the Team Nigeria's official outfit and send-forth ceremony to the Tokyo Olympic Games, which was held at the banquet hall of the State House in Abuja. Our correspondent Kayla Megwa reports.
They have been camped for 80 days in 4 cities, Abuja, Lagos, Bayelsa and Port Harcourt, training for the 13 games they'll be participating in. Team Nigeria also fully vaccinated against COVID-19.
The Team Nigeria will head straight for Kizarazu in Japan for the pre-camping before they finally go into the Olympics camp proper.
We are aware that all athletes and officials have all received their full jabs of the COVID-19 vaccination. We ensure that our team members abstain from any behavior that could tarnish the image of our dear country before the Committee of Nations.
I want to especially thank Mr. President and the federal government for the great support we receive financially as well as facilities and equipment.
Team Nigeria will be up against Olympic teams that have been in camp since the 2016 Olympics ended, and questions have been asked about their level of preparedness for the Games. Apart from the 80 athletes and coaches leaving for Tokyo, there's also a question of how essential a lot of the support staff traveling for the Games are. The Minister of Youth and Sports Development has written to the Customs Office to release the kits still stocked at the ports. However, those kits stocked at the port will not be the official apparel of the players during the Games. Team Nigeria's kits and apparel are locally sourced and being unveiled here by the Vice President. He reminds the athletes of the responsibility ahead of them.
Your performance at the Games will inscribe your names in national and world sporting history. And you carry the hopes and aspirations of millions as you compete in Tokyo. But you will, in this endeavor, have the assurance of the prayers and the best wishes of all of us Nigerians. You will also carry with you the encouragement of the great exploits of Nigerian Olympians before you.
80 Nigerian athletes stand on the shoulders of the legends before them, adorning our local attire, and have the arduous responsibility of not just winning the Olympic Games, but representing the country in a way that brings glory to Nigeria. It does seem like a very hard task to perform in this Olympic Games that is one like none that's ever happened before. But they do carry with them the assurances of the Nigerian government and the prayers of the Nigerian people. From the State House in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
To legal matters, a federal high court in Abuja has threatened to issue a bench warrant of arrest on former aviation minister Senator Stella Oduor if she fails to make herself available for trial on October the 19th for her arraignment in an alleged 10 billion naira fraud. Justice Iyan Ekwo issued a threat following the refusal of the former minister to honor court proceedings. Mrs. Odua, now a senator representing Anambra North Senatorial District in the National Assembly, was billed to be arraigned on a 25-count charge along with 4 others. They are charged with conspiracy and money laundering and maintaining anonymous bank accounts with First Bank PLC. Counsel to the EFCC, Hassan Liman, says 32 witnesses have been lined up to testify against her and 8 others, with a view to establish the fraud charges against them. Meanwhile, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has presented its 6th prosecution witness in the corruption trial of a former Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, Mr. Patrick Akpobulu-Kemi. The Commission's forensic documents examiner testified at the Federal High Court in Lagos about a signature analysis he carried out in respect of the case. A statement by the EFCC spokesperson, Mr. Wilson Owajuren, says a witness also narrated to the trial judge, Ayokunle Faji, how he carried out the forensic examination on some documents bearing the signature of interest. The EFCC is prosecuting Mr. Akpobulu-Kemi, who was the DG of NIMASA between 2010 and 2015, and 3 others for 22 counts of money laundering involving about 8.5 billion naira. He is being prosecuted alongside Emmanuel Atewe, a retired Major General who is a former commander of the Joint Military Task Force Operation Polo Shield, and 2 other staff members of the agency, Kime Egonzo and Josephine Otuaga. And that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thanks, Gloria. We continue in Lagos. The Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, says the team set up by the Ohaneze Ndigbo Apex Igbo Socio-Cultural Organization to monitor the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, is unnecessary but welcome. Mr. Kanu was extradited to Nigeria to face trial after jumping bail in 2017. He was arraigned before Justice Binta Nyako, the presiding judge, who ruled that he should be remanded in the custody of the Department of State Services, DSS, till July the 26th. The group spokesperson, Alex Igbonnia, had said a legal team has been set up to monitor the trial. The Attorney General says the decision is in line with the doctrine of the right to fair hearing rooted in Section 36 of the Nigerian Constitution. And billionaire businesswoman and philanthropist Apostle Folorunsho Alakija has launched 5 books to commemorate her 70th birthday, and she has been stressing that peace in the home front is necessary for every career woman.
For this individual, the symbolism of her new age tells her story. While the number 7 signifies introspection, wisdom, intuition, and spirituality, the number 0 signifies wholeness, infinite potential, and inclusiveness.
Thank you, MC.
This is the package Mrs. Folorunsho Alakija, philanthropist and business mogul, bears as she celebrates her 70th birthday.
God's blessings will never
Mind you, it is not just a meal and cake party, but an event which the celebrant is imparting into the lives of her guests. Mrs. Alakija is also an accomplished author with several books on marriage, spiritual growth, and caring for the less privileged as her major topics. Today, she adds to the list on her shelf, putting out 5 new materials.
Blossoming for the hand that gives the rose is an autobiography. The Master Key, a prayer compilation. Lamp unto my feet, a Bible study book. Answers to marital hip-hops, a compilation of frequently asked questions from the University of Marriage. And then Unveiling the Mystery of Marriage, a compilation of sermons from the University of Marriage and conferences in the last 5 years.
And welcome to the platform. The roll call here is highly impressive, as the hall is filled with individuals who have made marks in their respective fields. Selected guests are invited to the stage as panelists to engage the celebrants on several aspects of their life.
What would your advice be, to other women who want to achieve your level of success while maintaining grounded in the principles of home, family, and faith?
To keep the peace, you need to make sure that the various roles that God has given you to play, that you give each and every one of them proper attention.
Focus on the joy giver, and all you want shall come to you is line of the message Mrs. Alakija has for her guests, because as she puts it, that decision has never been one she regrets.
Money does not buy happiness. It only makes you joyful for a short time. It's just for a short time. Everlasting joy you will find in Christ. That joy is forever.
While this is going on, and
in addition to combination of the energies surrounding the number 70, the number also signifies becoming perfect. And if all that is known about Mrs. Folorunsho Alakija is true, she may just surpass that definition with another milestone achievement.
Because they have materials to use. My prayer for
7 decades, she looks fantastic. Well, it's over to business now. Here's Anne Laldo.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Hello and welcome to Business News. 3 new entities, namely NIPOST Transport and Logistics Company, NIPOST Property Development Company, and NIPOST Microfinance Bank, have all emerged following the unbundling of the Nigerian Postal Services. The Director of Information and Communication at the Bureau of Public Enterprises, Larai Bode, explains that while the initial takeoff grant is still being processed, the new companies are expected to resort to self-funding arrangements going forward. On his part, the Director General of the BPE, Mr. Alex Oko, who was speaking at a news conference in Abuja, puts the revenue target for the Bureau for the year 2021 at 493 billion naira. Mr. Oko explains that the funds will be generated from 36 projects. Pension Fund Operators Association of Nigeria says that it will continue to safeguard the savings of Nigerians without experiencing any financial risk. This is according to the CEO, PENOP, Oguche Aguda, who was speaking at the 3rd annual PENOP NAS retreat, where he also confirmed that the PENOP has recorded 9 million retirement savings accounts across the public and private sectors. The president of PENOP, Mr. Wale Odutola, also says the industry has moved from the largely unfunded pension system to one that is fully funded.
Nigeria's pension assets stands at 12.25 trillion. Well, that's according to the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics for February 2021. But ensuring that these assets are safe is the major concern of the Pension Fund Operators Association of Nigeria. Well, after 17 years of regulating the pension sector, PENOP holds its 3rd annual retreat for the Joint Committee, Establishment and Public Service of the Senate and House of Representatives Committee on Pensions. Leaders of PENOP reel out its achievements.
With more than 9 million retirement savings accounts across the private and public sector, many of our fellow Nigerians have confidence that they can have peace of mind in their retirement years. The annual growth of the pension assets is also impressive, growing at a compound annual growth rate of 32% as at 2019, which is faster than the GDP growth rate.
On market development, we are engaging with market operators, the stock exchanges, the bond exchanges, the regulators, international organizations to develop new and alternative products that pension assets can profitably invest in, and ensure that we move gradually away from investing just in largely government securities, but in more private-oriented securities.
While the Senate committee commended PENOP for operating in the interest of senior citizens in the country, the keynote speaker clamors for financial discipline from the pension sector.
We must all work collectively
to foster mutually beneficial working relationship that will impact positively on the lives of our senior citizens.
The most important regulation in any system is self-regulation. No matter how efficient, no matter how effective PENCOM is, there is no way PENCOM would know that the previous day that an operator had an unethical practice. Section 173, subsection 3 of the Nigerian Constitution provides that every 5 years, or if there is increase in salary, pension is increased. Those under the contributory pension scheme have not benefited from that.
This retreat is a strategy to deepen the relationship between the pension industry and the legislators, and PENOP says it is determined to make it work in order to improve the ratio of pension assets to GDP.
After closing the previous week in the red, the local equities market began the new week still negative. Let's have the details from Ini John Mekwa.
Hello and welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, 71 billion naira knocked off the total value of listed equities today, and the bear keeps its hold on the market. Intense sell pressure from key market giants has resulted to this, and this is in spite of the slightly positive market breadth of 14 gainers against 13 losers. All major counters were down except the oil and gas, which was marginally up. Little wonder seeing that Bois Cement, Lafarge Africa, FBN Holdings, Zenith Bank, ETI and International Breweries all ended the day's trading negative. Top gainers were Triple G, Regency Alliance and UPDC, while the flip side had CWG, International Breweries and Champion Breweries. The all-share index dropped further today, 0.36% in over 4,000 deals, with trading of over 187 million units of shares valued at 2.8 billion naira. That's the Stock Market Report. I'm Ini John Mekwa.
Thanks a lot, Ini. On the other hand, it's positive close for major stock markets around the world. Let's see the numbers for today. This news tonight, I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Millicent.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first bank.
Thank you, Anne. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki says the United States has not completely ruled out sending troops to Haiti to help secure key infrastructure. It comes as the police today announced it has arrested one of the suspected masterminds in the assassination of President Moise. Here's Samuel Pusey with more news in Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Thousands of Cubans have joined the biggest protests for decades against the island's communist government. They marched in cities including the capital Havana, shouting "Down with the dictatorship," a display of civil unrest rarely seen in the communist-ruled island nation. Footage shows what appears to be security forces detaining and beating some of the protesters. Cubans have been angered by the collapse of the economy, as well as by restrictions on civil liberties and the authorities' handling of the coronavirus pandemic. Deadly riots are continuing in South Africa as jailed former President Jacob Zuma challenges his sentence at a hearing in the country's top court. Footage shows people looting shops and setting fire to buildings. The police has opened fire on the looters and at least 6 people have been killed while hundreds have been arrested. The country has deployed the army to quell the violence. Unrest began last week after Zuma handed himself in to begin a 15-month sentence. Meanwhile, South Africa has extended the COVID-19 lockdown by another 2 weeks as cases continue to increase. The European Union is set to take the lead in climate policy action among the world's biggest greenhouse gas emitters this week. While temperatures are approaching 50 degrees in parts of Spain, the Fit for 55 package is set to be released on Wednesday. It is an ambitious plan designed to cut emissions drastically over the next decade, but will face months of negotiations between the 27 EU countries and the European Parliament. The bloc is also prepared for industry pushback. Police in Haiti have announced that they have arrested a doctor they believe is a key suspect in organising last week's assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. National Police Chief Leon Charles told a news conference the arrested man, a 63-year-old called Christian Emmanuel Sanon, entered Haiti on a private plane with political objectives. He explained the initial plan had been to arrest President Moïse, but said the mission then changed. The man is accused of hiring mercenaries to oust and replace Moïse. California is bracing itself for further scorching temperatures as Death Valley has recorded the all-time highest temperature for a third day on Sunday. Death Valley was again one of the hottest spots on the planet as a thermometer outside Furnace Creek Visitor Center showed 130 degrees Fahrenheit. The National Weather Service issued excessive heat warnings across much of the region and has cautioned residents that the high temperatures could be hazardous to their health, especially small children and the elderly. More than 12,000 Afghan families have fled their homes in Kunduz province as Taliban insurgents and government forces have battled for control of the southern fringes of the capital city. Video footage shows Afghan forces on the battlefield on the outskirts of the city as gunfire could be heard in the background. Taliban militants have already captured most districts in Kunduz province, but are facing resistance from Afghan forces and armed civilians in and around the capital. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. Still ahead on the news at 10. In sports, Italian president hosts Italian national team after Euro winnings. In a moment.
Time now for some sports news. Italian President Sergio Mattarella has given a hero's welcome to Italy's football team as he hosted the ceremony for them at the presidential palace as European champions earlier today. Large crowds of fans gathered to cheer the gold medal-wearing Azzurri as they left the Parco dei Principi hotel, where they have been resting since returning to Rome in the early hours of this morning. Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson has condemned the racist online abuse suffered by black players in the England national team after their defeat in the final of Euro 2020, saying he hoped the abusers crawled back under their rocks. Black players in the England football team have been subjected to a storm of online racist abuse after their defeat in the final of Euro 2020. And that's sports news.
And the main news again, health professionals today raised concerns over neglect of COVID-19 protocols by citizens. They say a third wave of the pandemic has begun in the country. That's news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Stay safe.